What's up, guys, and welcome back to yet another video of the Young Guns podcast. This day one of free agency has been pretty crazy so far. We're just past noon, and a lot of the big names are off the board, and there are some big signings to cover right now, especially regarding the Nashville Predators, who've just been on a splurge in this early window of free agency now. As reported by Pierre LeBrun, if you look on my screen over here, Steven Stamkos is signing for 4 years at $8 million AAV. The longtime Tampa Bay legend, captain, winner of Stanley Cups, is officially on the move. There were all these rumblings that, there's almost, Detroit was interested, Nashville was among the suitors, the Toronto Maple Leafs as well, but there also was the possibility that he was gonna test out the market and then end up re-signing with Tampa. There was just so much speculation, but Steven Stamkos, who was an unrestricted free agent years ago, and there was all that speculation if he was gonna go to Toronto or not, then resign with Tampa after the day one of free agency that year. Steven Stamkos is officially on the move, guys. And with Steven Stamkos, we also have Vegas Golden Knights Conn Smythe winner of 2 years ago, Jonathan Marchessault, is signing 5 years, 5.5 AV. The veteran winger is signing as well. And there's been reported Brady Shea at 7 years, $7 million AAV. Brady Shea, we're going to be covering in a live stream that we're going to be doing very soon, because we did not predict that all of these moves would happen so early on in the day, but we want to cover all of them for you guys, so stay tuned for that. But for the time being, let me speak on Steven Stamkos to begin things. Let's go on his player profile on HockeyDB over here. So Steven Stamkos is now 34 years of age, obviously a first overall pick in 2008, and spent his entire career with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Has had some fantastic years with Tampa, but not only with Tampa, he was on the Sochi team that won at the Olympics in 2014. He's been integral part not only with his NHL team, but with Team Canada. And, he's had 90-point seasons at the NHL. He's had an 100-point season in 2021, 2022. Long playoff runs. They made the Cup Finals, lost to the Hawks in 2015, where you see my cursor. They played 26 playoff games that year, numerous playoff runs, and then back-to-back years of making the final. Didn't, because of injury, the first time around in 2020 was only limited to one playoff game, but the year after, he was able to get into the mix. Still a very, very productive player, having scored 80 points this past year. 34 years of age, you're still getting a first-line elite talent capable of scoring 35 to 40 goals. And this is just exciting for Nashville Preds fans because they're adding Steven Stamkos, the leadership he brings, but the player that he is and all the firepower is now going to be oozing out the offense, not only with him, but with Marchessault. Hasn't been reported yet, the deal on cap friendly, but I just showed you guys the terms. It's going to be $8 million. He's going to be the second highest paid player after long tenured winger Philip Forsberg, in a team that, made the playoffs, had this run starting in February where they went, I believe, 17 to 18 games unbeaten, acquiring points in all of those games, either being regulation or, winning in overtime. But they made the playoffs. UC Saros hasn't been confirmed yet, but there's an extension in the works. He'll be coming back. They're starting that minder. Obviously, Roman Josi is there. They had an astute decor this past year, Ryan McDonough chipping in as well, then got traded to Tampa. So the team that made the playoffs lost in the first round, but they're looking to get back, right? Barry Trotz, was a tenured coach there, is now the general manager. And he said it, like, if he's not scared to be bold. If he feels his team has an opportunity to be competitive, he's not gonna. Even though Nashville fans were thinking midway through this past year, like, oh, maybe a rebuild could be in the works, just because the group doesn't have the same kind of spark that it's had in past seasons. They've had consecutive years of making the playoffs, but they pulled through in February. As of midway point in February, they really pulled through, and they're able to get over 90 points. They got into a playoff seeding. Let me just show you guys the impact of these two moves on their current lineup. So they had that top line with Forsberg, Ryan O'Reilly, Gustav Nyquist having a career year. That line was great for them. Ryan O'Reilly signed as a free agent last summer, so on a big contract. Like, let me go back here. What was the term? So actually no, it was 4 years of 4.5. But they didn't shy away from signing veteran forward Ryan O'Reilly to this deal and try to remain competitive. Gustav Nyquist has still got a year on his deal. So now they bring in Marchessault and Steven Stamkos. So beyond their top line, Evangelista's got some promise. Tommy Novak is more of a complementary player, but they're adding Marchessault and Steven Stamkos is just going to add this team's top six credibility. It's going to help by a ton, and they'll be bolstering one of the most potent top sixes in the Western Conference. A lot of veteran presence there, but a lot of veteran high-end skill that can. And from what we've seen at least in the past year, Marchessault and Stamkos, they could still really get it done at a high level, because Marchessault, let me go to him right here. I'm kind of maneuvering this thing simultaneously. 33 years of age, obviously won the Conn Smythe, like I said. Was the top scorer for Vegas this year, registering 42 goals. So Nashville just acquired two 40-goal scorers, and this is great for them because they're adding it to the lineup here already. Their decor needs a little bit of work, but like I said, Brady Shea is going to come in and play a top four role for them. That's for sure. This team looks like it could do some damage next season. It looks like it could do some damage for them next season. Look, cap space wise, it's 20 million here, but you have to chop off about 50 million with these two signings that they made. And who do they have as notable free agents left to re-sign? Everybody else hit unrestricted free agency, or nobody else. They didn't make any qualifying offers to restricted free agents. So they still have a little bit wiggle to work with, but Nashville needs a backup netminder to have signed, and I think a move at defenseman is something that'll make a couple of depth signings. If not, if these moves have already happened, everything is kind of happening all at once. So we'll keep you guys updated with that. But so Stammer and Jonathan Marchessault, two respective Stanley Cup winners, iconic for both of their organizations, are officially on the move. So what more is there to say about these two trades before we cover one more video and then head on live for you guys? Let's just react to what people are saying on Twitter now. Yeah, well, actually, there's one thing I wanted to tap into before I cut off this video here. Is I wanted to go to Tampa's cap situation, because they're a team that's made a lot of moves. Julien Brisebois, GM, has made a lot of moves this offseason to kind of get younger and to improve on areas that they needed to improve on after getting swept this year. So, obviously they were priced out with Steven Stamkos. He wasn't going to take a hometown discount this time around. Obviously, they signed Jay Gensel to this long deal, now 7 years, $9 million. He's obviously a couple years younger than Steven Stamkos. They think he's got the legs to keep this. They're creating the new big three now. With Stamkos leaving, they replaced him with Gensel, and who's going to be complementing Braden Point and Nikita Kucherov. This team is nothing short of competent. And like I've said in a previous video, when you got Nikita Kucherov, Victor Hedman, Braden Point as your chorus, and even with Andrei Vasilevsky, like you're always in it to contend every year. And you add a guy like Jake Gensel, Brandon Hagel's there, Cirelli, they got the right complementary pieces. This team is going to be competitive. But with Stamkos, it was just best for them with his age and what kind of the market value for him. I think it was just best to move on. But I think that was probably one of the hardest decisions the franchise had to make with with their long tenured captain. And on the decor, Ryan McDonough came back. So they had an expensive decor already. They had to get rid of Mikhail Sergachev. They got younger with JJ Moser, who's a good player, who could help in their top four. Hopefully offers more consistent play this year. But he's somebody that they're gonna re-sign shortly. So yeah, so Tampa have been another team that's been very aggressive, and obviously now the Nashville Preds are really going for it. Barry Trotz has really has been dishing out all. He's been kind of a sugar daddy, dishing out these three big contracts now to among the top free agents available are all going to Nashville. This is crazy enough. Let me end it at that. Nashville Predators are really trying to build a competitive squad here to up themselves and building potentially for a long playoff run this coming season. Obviously, a lot of moves are still to be made in this offseason, but yeah, Nashville Predators are really going for it. So it's been Zach from the Young Guns podcast. Stay tuned for the Montour video. And beyond that, we're going to be going live because there's all these moves to cover, and we want to cover all of them for you. It's going to be a good chance as well for you guys to interact with us. But drop a like on this video, interact in the comments, and let us know who you think won this trade. So guys, I'll see you guys on the next one. It's been Zach, and peace.